What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Inside Lines podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson. Can y'all believe that we are just a few weeks away from Christmas? I feel like Thanksgiving just happened, and now we're focused on Christmas. I hope you're able to hit some Black Friday or get some deals so you can get what you wanted for Christmas, because I feel like these two holidays this year are back to back. We kind of lost a week with Thanksgiving being a week later. Also, speaking of lost, winning and losing, I know there are a lot of fantasy football people out there that are either really excited or they're really upset. Either you're killing it this season or your team has not been holding up. We've had a lot of injuries this year, but for those that are doing well, I know y'all are gearing up for the playoffs. So I just want to wish each and every one of you good luck. Either way, I hope you are enjoying playing, because there's some women that are making boss moves out there that are beating their husbands, and I love to hear about it. So ladies, keep going, keep playing, keep learning, keep growing. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime. I see you guys leveling up and making moves, so keep it up. It's been so fun watching all of the growth. I think we have to work on trades, though. I feel like women are still struggling with trades, how they work, who you should ask for a trade, who you should not. So we're going to focus on a lot of that next year so that women really understand how that works. And I think it'll benefit a lot of people. We'll talk more about that later, but I just wanted to mention that. But shout out to the women that are learning how to play and killing it this year. I see you, boss babes, and I want y'all to know, I hope y'all win it all, but not in my league. Okay. Speaking of boss babes, y'all, I have the pleasure of welcoming to the podcast the beautiful, the smart, the hilarious Sara Lovestyle. On this show today, we have a former guest who was on about 3 years ago. And so much has changed. I call this episode Life After Football, and I want to welcome on the show Sara Lovestyle Hood.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. It only took us 88 years to do this in person. So we're here. We did it.
We are here. And I'm so excited to have you on, because life after football is a thing. Everyone experiences it, and everyone's experience is different. But what doesn't happen is we don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to have you on. And First, I want to go back to it's been 3 years since you've been on, and life has drastically changed for you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that episode first and like where you were there, and then we'll kind of sequentially go forward from there.
You know what's fascinating is at the time when we did the episode, I didn't tell you I was going through a divorce.
You didn't?
I didn't tell you. And to be honest, I didn't even tell my parents. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell my sisters. I didn't tell anyone. It was one of those processes where I wanted to deal with it just peacefully and on my own. Mm-hmm. I was in therapy, just making sure that I was healing. Right. But it was so fascinating to go back and listen to that episode and think about where I was, because the one thing that I love about you is how safe, and I know that I can be transparent and vulnerable, and also understand that this could be a place where it might be helpful for someone. And the interesting part about life after football, even if you eliminate the divorce part, a part of you kind of breaks a little bit, because it's sort of the only life you have known as an adult.
Yes.
It's very strange to go from, we had dated in college at 18. So to go from 18 to 32, and then, the life part happens and you're like, whoa, what is life without it? It's very, very strange.
Right.
But for me to think about what I was dealing with personally, I was internally breaking and watching my world crumble. While simultaneously watching my career climb.
Yes.
I had just launched Sara Lovestyle in late 2019 or mid 2019. And then we did, so maybe just under 2 years when you and I did that episode.
Yes.
And so much of my life has changed. And I think about where that version of Sara was and the evolution of who she was. It's so wild. Your life can change so fast.
Yes.
But there's so much beauty like in those ashes. And for me, it has been. But yeah, it's crazy to think about like not even telling you at the time that I was going through a divorce.
I think about that too, because I think a lot of people, when they go through a divorce, it's drama, it's chaos. They want to bring their family in, their friends in, right? There's just all of this taking sides and turmoil that happens.
Yeah. And I didn't want that I didn't want any of that.
And I could tell. And you decided to not only not tell anyone, but deal with it on your own. A lot of people don't go through the healing, the therapy before they make those decisions. Why was that important for you?
Several reasons. One was, to be quite honest, I didn't know who I was at the time. When you spend so much of your life with someone, I really couldn't remember or know who the essence of Sara was because I'd been with someone for so long. And this isn't just for football. This is just in relationships in general. If you've been in a long-term relationship, you understand that like everything you are kind of gets tied to this person. Your identity gets tied to this person. Your purpose gets tied to this person. There's a level of sacrifice that comes with being with someone at that level, where their entire life sort of encompasses who you are. And then who was I outside of being a mother? I'm just Josiah and Jeremiah's mom. Who was I at 32 at the time, trying to navigate what is it that I want out of life, and how do I feel with life, and what is my purpose, and what is my calling, and what is it that I want to accomplish? And so for me, I needed to figure out who I was above all else. Yeah. And then the second part is I knew that if I didn't heal, I would bleed out my children. And I did not want to punish my children for the decisions and choices that I made. And even though they were the best decisions for me, I didn't want to unexpectedly or unnecessarily or unfairly bleed on them when it wasn't their fault. It was two adults who made a decision. And I wanted to make sure that they still got the best version of me as I navigated who I was and who I was becoming.
That's good. I think about the transition of letting go. Yeah. Right? And you're letting go while you're still trying to figure out who you are, while you're evolving into who you are. And what you said earlier was, although this was descending and this was coming to an end, I was ascending and I was figuring out who I was. In that, do you think that that really helped you in navigating that space?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if I would have been able to clearly see the next move if I wasn't in therapy. I don't know if I hadn't have like really just been in a quiet place with just myself and God and a therapist, if I would have been able to view opportunities that were coming up. I don't know if Sara Lovestyle would have grown the way that it did. It's a very strange place to be when you're watching the tower of your personal life fall apart and it's not your fault and there's nothing you can do about it. And I can go into woe is me and play victim. I can go cry in a corner, which you're allowed to do. And I had those moments. Or while also simultaneously watching my career excel and excel very quickly.
Yes.
And so I had to make a decision. And for me, the conversation that I always have is I want everything that God has for me. Like when I hear on earth as it is in heaven, we pray that prayer so effortlessly because we've been saying it since we were kids.
So true.
No. On earth as it is in heaven. I'm not trying to wait until the end of my life. And God's like, hey, I had all of this for you, but you quit, you gave up, you didn't strive for more. You could have pushed through. And sometimes we get stuck in that valley of death.
Yes.
We build a home there. We build a house there. And it's easy to get stuck there. And that's without judgment because I know what that place is like. But you have a decision to make. And for me, the decision was I want to ascend and see what am I capable of on my own?
Yes.
And when I tell you God is so faithful, he's so faithful.
He is, because I watched you. I literally remember watching you from when you started to now. And I was like a proud sis, you know what I mean? Just cheering you on because I knew that you were stepping out in faith. I knew you were doing something that you had never done before. And just seeing the evolution has been incredible. And when you talk about therapy, a lot of people, it gets a negative rap. Yeah. And I feel like it's now people are starting to understand what it really means. You know, it's kind of like you talked about, working out, taking care of your body, right? You can take care of your body all you want, but are you taking care of your mind? Are you feeding it what it needs to be its best self? Yeah. And I think people are trying to change that stigma of therapy and champion it into realizing like, oh, I need this so I can see outside of the clouds and all the things that are kind of in my way on where I'm supposed to be. So I say that to you because what I think about therapy, like it's been a savior for me too. I love it. I absolutely, it's like having a coach. It's like, going to talk to someone, checking in. Do you think the NFL, when I think about life, in the NFL and actually life after the NFL, do you think that there's a campaign needed or something needed for not just the players, but even for the significant others?
Girl. It is a very difficult life.
Yeah.
And I know that it's one that most people will not understand. And there's the money, and then there's the fame, there's there's all of that, right? But no one prepares you for what it's like, though. Nobody prepares you for the chaos. Nobody prepares you for the moving. No one prepares you for the isolation. No one prepares you to learn motherhood in a world that's not really normal.
Yes.
Nobody really prepares you for having a child with special needs and then add the bubble of that and not knowing where your next step is going to be or not knowing what the next move is going to be. I wish, and we talked about this the last time we did the episode, I wish I would have gone to therapy. Like, if you are a woman that's listening, I don't care if you're 22, and I know we don't listen at 22 because we think we know everything or that we're grown. Like, I wish at 22 that I would have gone to therapy, not because things were bad and out of a place of survival and desperation, but out of a place of, okay, this is great. What the heck do I do with this? Because it's all unknown territory.
Yes.
You are in one hell of a bubble of 3,000 people with wives you may or may not see tomorrow, with friends you don't know if you'll be friends with next week. Then you're not really sure because they're, the teammates, and there's just so much happening. And then we tend to have children early, and we're already in a normal circumstance where, like, parenting is hard.
Yes.
Marriage is hard.
Yes.
And so there should be therapy to prepare us, and also to deal with the life's decisions that happen, and for like some of the difficulties and the challenges that can come from just the entire process as a whole. Even for me, I'm still in therapy, even though everything is great.
Yeah.
But it's to level set and have someone that I can talk to who understands my experiences. And you can't necessarily talk to everyone about it. Your friends and your family aren't going to understand that experience. No. So you have to be able, like for me, my therapist is a woman of color. And even though she's never been in that particular experience, she can speak to what it's like to be a Black woman or to be a woman of color in the different spaces that I'm in. In the professional realm, she works a lot with pro athletes. And so she kind of has that, she's got the education and the experience to speak to some of the things that we're dealing with. And so I, 10 out of 10, highly recommend get into therapy. It's a very, very strange world because sometimes even your friendships are based on proximity and environment, not because you're actually friends. So I had to learn at 32 out of it. How do I actually build friendships? Do you actually like me? Do we have anything in common? Do we actually like the things that we like? I didn't know I was funny until I got out. I didn't know I was witty. I didn't know I liked tomatoes. Because you like it's so crazy. It's so crazy because like I was with someone for so long that, I'm like, oh, he doesn't like tomatoes, but turns out I really like tomatoes. Oh, they don't like cucumbers, but I like cucumbers.
That's good.
I don't, and it sounds so stupid, but it's like rediscovering who you are. Yeah. And it kind of alters the way that you build friendships because you don't really know how, because it's a proximity thing, not a we actually like each other thing.
Yeah.
It's not really, and I don't know how to explain it to someone who's listening who's not ever been in that world.
Yeah.
It's literally based on environment and proximity is how we build friendships. So imagine at 22, now you're out on the other side and you're trying to figure out, how do we build friendships? Because typically you'd just be sitting next to me at a game.
Yes.
Or we would meet at a dinner or a function or something.
Yeah.
But trying to build adult female friendships was such a strange thing, especially when we're so protective of each other and ourselves
Yes.
in that space. And then you get out and you're like, so what do you do? And you're like, I don't know if I like this person.
Yes.
It's just having basic conversations and communication that I had to relearn in just a different way.
You know, it's very interesting that you say that, because I think about when Nate finished playing after the 11 years, we moved to Arizona and we thought, okay, we're just going to be in Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm finally going to be home. I get to be around my family. We lasted there a year. And then that's when he got the call to head to New York for media.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want to go. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, I don't want to go. I won't know anyone. Where do I start?
Right.
How do even my kids, like, where do I even start with them? Like, and to your point, it's very interesting relearning how to be a friend, because you don't have that commonality of the NFL.
No.
You don't have that commonality of showing up for games, to going to functions, being around one another, right? Yeah. All of those commonalities are gone. Yeah. It's just you and them. Mm-hmm. And then so there's not I don't like someone, like, you learn to like someone or to get along with someone because they are part of the team. Yeah. But now you get to choose.
Correct.
Crazy. Blew my mind.
Is that a crazy concept?
I was not ready. I was like, yeah, I won't be hanging around that person. Okay, note to self, this person is this way. Like, oh, this person's genuine. Yes, I felt them. I loved them. I connected with them. But to your point, I had to learn that too. And it was so weird.
In my big age, I was like, am I awkward? Is it me? That's the problem. I had to relearn. I was like, maybe I just need to stay by myself at home because this is crazy.
And you're protective of your family. You don't want your nucleus. You don't want to bring people into a humble abode that you've created and protected for so long and like mess things up, right? So there's that layer too. There's all of these layers of meeting people outside of the NFL that I had to learn as well. But I will say God has been so good to me as far as putting women in my path that needed to be in my path. You know, he's removed some as well, but he's been very, like, that was my prayer. Like, Lord, please let me find genuine, good women that are like-minded in the sense of they love their families. You know, they know who they are and what they want. It doesn't have to be forced. It's just organic. And he opened up those doors and avenues for me. So I am grateful for that. Then I think about the NFL, right? Yeah. And you think about those friendships. I'm going to ask you a question. Sure. How many of those friendships have you still maintained?
The word friends is layered.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think here's what I will say. In the age of social media, there's obviously a lot more that I keep in contact with, but it's more from a life perspective. It's not from like a football perspective. Okay. And social media makes it easier to like check on the kids. I see your stories. I see your page. I get to cheer you on, like that kind of a thing. But in terms of like in depth, probably two. And my two would have been Kayla and then my friend Angel. So
you have two genuine friendships that you feel like.
Yeah. Kayla before she passed and then Angel. Yeah.
And you felt like those two like will always be near and dear to your heart. And that's very interesting because to your point, it's different. So post is like, gosh, what's going to stick? You know?
It is because I'd always heard these stories or I'd watched it happen to guys who were older with their families. But when you're on your way out, and you kind of know when it's about to end. Because I built those friendships so late in the game, I feel like that's part of why I was able to stick them longer.
I could see that.
But also because we've built relationships that were, I mean, maybe this isn't the right word to use, but I'm going to say it anyway, they're kind of superficial and very surface because of the proximity. So you don't really feel like you lost friendships because you really weren't that tight anyway.
That's true.
And so I would say that in my experience as well, and it wasn't even post, I would say once you left a team, you never really talked to those people again.
Mm-hmm.
So it
was more of a, what's the word? Comfortability.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, we were just
you're on
there.
the team together. So yeah, we're cool.
Yeah.
We're cool.
But
and then after that,
I think the first time we left a team, I was like, oh, this actually kind of hurts a little bit. So then I had my wall up. And then after that, you just kind of learn about how this is going to work, and you get used to just not being friends with people anymore. It's a very strange place to be. But I would say those two, Kayla and Angel, were the only ones that I've like kept, that I talked to daily, or I did talk to daily. Right. And but I will say though, I'm grateful for the women that I did have in my life across that journey, because they got to meet a different evolution of Sara in every stage.
Yeah.
The version of me in Pittsburgh is very different than the version of me in Jacksonville, and then the version in Jacksonville is very different from the Redskins experience. And then also, if these people were to meet me now, the evolution of who I am today is incredibly different than who I was at the time. So I'm grateful, and each of those women that were a part of my life at every step, though, they were the reason in a season. That was the season where I needed those particular people, and hopefully I was able to be the same way for them in that particular season.
That's good. Another campaign I want to talk to you about in the NFL, and then we're going to transition into life after the NFL, is the NFL doing a better job in helping women. I would say helping women when they move to a team, right? The transition, just figuring out, where do I start? Like, what realtor do I use? Right. What school district do I put my kids in? Right? And then you think about, I have a dear friend as well who her son, she found out had autism, and she had to learn all of this in the NFL. And so you think about that and you think like, oh, they probably have all the resources they need. They probably are giving them everything that they need. And you find out that's not the case.
No.
Talk about, from your perspective, how it was for you and what you feel like could be better.
So there's two things that I will say, and part of it isn't just the NFL needing to be better and the teams needing to be better. I think part of it is the onus is on me to a certain extent. Because once you get that diagnosis, it's such a scary place to be, and you feel like a part of you is crumbling. And so you don't even know what to do next. So you just go in survival mode, and you're just trying to figure it out, and doctors and the appointments and therapists and your schools and getting therapists at the schools. So you're just trying to navigate it. And so for me, I went into sheer isolation because I was trying to just figure it out. And so part of my onus is I wish I would have talked more, and I wish I would have communicated with more people. Like, I spent 5 years in Pittsburgh and no one knew.
Well, you talked about the mom guilt. Like, you felt like you blamed yourself. Oh, yeah. Do you think that was part of not talking about it?
It's the mom guilt, but also like, who's going to understand what I'm dealing with? Then it's also he's in this particular position. Do I have the right to even complain and whine about my life? And there's people who have it harder. And so it was, who do you complain to? Who do you whine to when you, by some people's standards, you have it all? Or who do you talk to when you feel isolated? You're in a random effing city that you don't know, and you don't know a soul. My family's from Seattle. I'm on the complete opposite end of the country. Right. I don't know anyone here. I don't have friends yet because we were pregnant so early. And everyone was a solid 7-8 years older than us. And as far as I knew, no one else had a child with special needs. And so I didn't have, or what I thought, I didn't think that I had other resources, and I didn't have anyone to talk to. And so I was just in survival mode. But in terms of what teams in particular can do better, I will say the Redskins, or the Commanders, did actually a really great job. Mrs. Snyder had, when we got there and we went to the wives thing, they had a binder. And I don't know whose idea it was. Yeah. But from what I had heard, it didn't exist before. But when I got there, they had a binder that had where people do laundry services, schools, doctors, and basically from all the different wives so that it was in one place where we could get help. Mm-hmm. What I will say is, until someone speaks up, though, why would they know to put a therapist in there?
That's true.
So if they don't know that someone's dealing with a child, so when I had those conversations very openly in Washington, they were able to add and make those additions. But for me, I will also shout out the Miami Dolphins. They were the first team to put a quiet room, like an autism room, a quiet space in the stadium.
Really?
Yeah, in Miami. And every stadium, I feel, should have that. And it was such I don't know, I just feel like as women, we should be able to talk more, have some sort of a binder, have a Google folder, have something that places schools, because we really are just figuring out and winging it. Because I remember putting Jeremiah in a school and being like, oh, I don't like this experience at all. So I just called up a whole bunch of wives and they were like, oh, no, our kids are here. Didn't you know that? I'm like, no, why would I know that? No one told me that.
No one told you.
So I think it's having more conversations, asking questions, but obviously having a resource where new families could go to would be incredibly helpful.
That's why I created, so I don't know if you know this, but this past April, I launched Ladies Playbook, and Ladies Playbook basically is a website, and it hosts basically all the resources and recommendations that women need when they relocate to a new city and a new team. So that was important for me, and I'll tell you why. To your point of that book changes, right? People leave. Some of those things may not be relevant, but when you put it somewhere digitally, no matter where you are, no matter what team you go to, you have a place where you can log in and you can find those resources and recommendations. And then secondly, on there's a web chat forum. So you can say, hey, I'm Atoya. I'm new on the team. I have 3 kids. I would love some help. And women can say, oh, welcome. Yeah. We have Bible studies on this day. Hey, our kids are here, right? There's a way for you to connect with other women and communicate with them that is hopefully before you get to the women's luncheon in September, right?
Right.
So, because that's a long ways away. And you're trying to relocate and do everything before you get to there. And then thirdly, it hosts different women that have businesses. So if you have a business and you want other women to support you,
I love that.
It's right there. And we can support one another, uplift one another. I think we all need that. And to your point, I think that these things were scattered on different teams in different places, but there was no place where you could find it all. And so that's why I launched this, because I thought, okay, I've been doing this podcast for a few years now. I've heard the grind. I heard the complaints. I've heard, what women are looking for. I'm like, no one's going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Like even pediatricians, the amount of people I had to call to get a pediatrician in every city. Yeah. The amount of people. So Josiah at any given time had like 17 therapists and doctors that were working for us at any given time. Where the hell do I start to find PT, OT, speech, vision, ABA?
Yes.
What's the best services? And then we don't have the easiest schedule to manage.
Right.
So who can operate under these pretenses? Who can do at-home visits? Or do we need to go in person? Yes. What if we're traveling? Like, there's just so many elements of sports, swimming. It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
And then you think about all of this wealth of knowledge that you have, Sarah, because of everything you've been through. Yeah. Like, I would love for you to be like, hey, Atoya, if anyone else is going through that, here's everything that I use. Please put this in there. And I'm like, I got you, right? Yeah. And so now you're blessing someone else with all of your wealth and knowledge who may be experiencing the same thing. And so that's what this is about. It's about building community, knowledge, support, connection. That's what we all need.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And I think about women in the military sometimes and I'm like, do they have that resource? Because as much as they're moving around, what does that look like for them?
So yeah, it's so funny you say that. I was talking to my sister about this because I was trying to figure out if I was going to do professional sports and what other areas I would go into. And she said, very much so they have it. Not only that, but they move you. You use the resources that they have on base. Everything that they have for you is there. And I thought that's so amazing. Yeah. I love that they have that for these women. I'm like, so she's like, no, they came in, they put everything in the boxes. What? They pack it all up for you.
Girl, we moved forward. I moved us 4 times in 30 days. It was the wild, wild west.
It is great. And I'm like, so they have this in the military, but they don't have this. The only way they have it in the NFL is if you are traded during the season. Other than that, you're on your own. If it's the off season, figure it out. That's just
times.
how it is.
It was good times.
Right? If it's during training camp and you end up on 2 or 3 different teams, figure it out.
Cries in moving vans. I don't ever need to see a moving truck.
I know.
I don't ever need to see one again.
I don't miss it either. It was a lot. I'm glad that that's, in the rear view, but I told myself, okay, I'm going to put some stuff together so that if any other woman has went through what I went through, they have something, right? They have something, this playbook. The guys, when they go into that locker room, they get their playbook and they have to learn that playbook right away. And that's their Bible and they have to hold on to it. And so where's our playbook, right? And so that's why I was like, I'm going to create our own playbook. So no matter where you go, you have a playbook. You're good. You don't feel alone. You can reach out to someone. Even if there's something in there and you need more answers, you can reach out in the web chat forum and ask someone. So
I love that.
That was really important to me. It really was.
I wish I had it.
I know. But I want to talk to you about what you're up to. Speaking of life after football, you said so much has changed for you. You talked about earlier, when you decided to file for divorce. And not only that, you decided to move. I did. All the way across country.
I did.
Let me hear how this happened.
So it's interesting because I filed for divorce and then the world shut down. And Sara Lovestyle was starting to kind of come up, and it was maybe 5 or 6 months old at the time.
And Sara Lovestyle is?
The brand. It's your brand.
It's your social brand that you created from scratch.
I did. And I started Sara Lovestyle because Josiah is nonverbal autistic. And so I had this conversation with God and I was like, what do you want me to do right now? I was suing the county where I was living and I was just so frustrated. If you've ever been to an IEP meeting, it is awful. And they sit there and they tell you everything your child can't do, won't do, will never do. You feel like a failure. You feel the guilt, everything. It sucks. You never leave there with joy or peace or anything. And so I'm not saying why me. That's my dog. That's my baby. I'm made to be his mother. But it was one of those what do you want me to do in this situation? And God was like, he may not have a voice, but you do. And I was like, well, I don't know what that voice is right now. And I wanted to, my daughter with whom I'm well pleased. I was expecting a whole pat on the back. And God was like, nah, dog, you have a voice and you're squandering it. You're wasting it. And I was like, but God, I don't even know who I am. And so I had to go and whiteboard for 3 hours. I wiped my tears. I go and I whiteboard and everything kept coming back to how do I live my life? It's what is my lifestyle? And for me, that is in love. Love is the place where I try to come from at all times.
Yes.
And so that's where the love style comes from. That is my lifestyle is through love. And so, it's interesting, even where the Lovestyle brand started and where it is now is entirely different. But it evolved very quickly into, into tech and consumer products, and then into beauty. And then there was an acquisition. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, God, okay, I see what you're doing here, but where is this going? And it's been a fascinating, exciting 3 years, or now it's 4 years of Sara Lovestyle, and just how much it's changed, which has led into venture capital and private equity. And I'm an LP in 3 different funds right now, which I don't even know if that's the right way to do it, but I know that's how I'm doing it.
Yes.
And you think a part of you feels like a part of you dies when that part of your life is over. A part of you has to grieve the divorce. And you grieve the life you thought you were going to have in the future, and you grieve your future. But it's also really exciting.
Yeah.
There's so much hope in the future. There's so much, like I said earlier, I want everything that God has for me, everything with my name on it. And I get to do it while my children watch me become a badass.
Yeah.
My children get to watch me build this thing that is legacy for me and for them to discover what they want to do and to find their purpose early. For me, if I can do that with my kids, I feel like that's a W for me.
100%. Because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
No, it is not. No. And I have this conversation often with, clients with even my, so I have a consulting firm, and with founders, at least one of every 5, I'm like, are you sure this is a journey you want to take on? Because I don't play with folks. Yes. I'm very honest.
Straight to the point.
do you want to do this? And the reality is, if I ask enough questions, the answer is no. You thought this was a great idea and it was a side gig or a hobby, but it's not for the faint of heart. It's 90% of the time, it's effing hard. There's at least twice a day where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Or, I mean, I will, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, do I really want to do this? There's so much uncertainty. You're worried about capital consistently. You are making, sales and processes and systems and team members, and you get played by team members and firing and hiring. There's so much that goes into leadership and like through entrepreneurship. And you don't actually make money until there's an acquisition, or you don't actually make money until you've scaled to a certain number, which looks different for every person. I think there's social media probably doesn't help, because you think that there's like a lifestyle. No, the lifestyle is complete despair all day long.
She said it.
It's complete despair. Especially early in the journey.
Yeah.
I work 18, 20-hour days every day.
That's crazy.
Every day. Like today, we're back to back nonstop shoot days all day.
Okay, so you started social media, Sara Lovestyle. Yeah. And to your point, it was your humor, your fashion, beauty. And you still have those parts in there, but the evolution, when did it turn for you and you thought, I kind of, this other world is interesting, this tech, this, when did that business side outside of what you were doing on social media start?
The pandemic.
Okay.
So two things. So after I had filed for divorce in September, or maybe it was like October, I get this accidental butt dial. And this accidental butt dial changes my life. That's how I first went into CPG in tech.
Okay.
And I understood the product. I was only supposed to come on as an influencer. But then I saw the product and I was like, no, I want to invest in this. And so then that was the first deal. And then about a month after that, there was a beauty brand that reached out. They couldn't afford to pay me. So I made a joke about getting equity in their company. And they said, we would consider that. And we did.
Wow.
And then less than a year later, they get acquired, which, by the way, is not normal. Like, that time frame is not normal. But for me, I realized, I could do this very differently. But my intent with Sara Lovestyle when I launched it was, I was like, can I make a sustainable lifestyle out of this?
Girl, you were cooking the meals, them spices. What you mean? I was over there like, can you come to my house?
And I was like, I gave myself a 2-year deadline.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I was going to go back to corporate. And it just was changing, and the landscape was changing, and Reels had just launched, and then Shorts launched. And I was like, okay, my intent was never to do fashion. My intent was never to do any of that stuff. But when the pandemic happened, I was like, y'all just going to get what you get.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is they were watching me evolve in real time. I was discovering I'm funny.
Wow.
I was like, how can I share what I'm really thinking? Because somebody else got to be thinking what I'm thinking.
Yes.
How do I make relatable content to me?
Yeah.
I love to cook. Somebody out there got to want to cook too.
She's not playing. You need to pop some of those back up.
I got you. It's coming back.
I'm telling you.
It's coming back.
So good. Okay.
It is coming back, I promise. And I was just testing and navigating and seeing what worked, not just for my audience, but what felt authentic to me.
Yeah.
And when you couldn't have told me that I'd be on social media with no makeup on. You couldn't tell me that I'd be on there dancing, and I can't dance. And
yes, you can.
I have rhythm, but I can't dance.
Okay, that's fair. So, I mean, that's majority of us. Not all of us can be a Janet Jackson out there.
Like, I can't 1-2 step. I can't do all that.
Sierra.
Right? I can't do it. But I realized that there was a space for me. There was a place where I belonged, and there were people who wanted to see that more authentic version of myself, which is, to me, authenticity is almost difficult because I'll never show my children, and I'll never show you my personal side or my personal life. And so figuring out how to share authentically who I am without giving people everything was a very delicate balance.
Yeah.
And I think I've figured it out now. And also finding my voice in the process as the brand was evolving. Then, because of what happened in 2019, 2020, and then I became obsessed with the business of influence in 2020.
Okay.
I became obsessed with entrepreneurship during the pandemic.
Okay.
And there were no distractions. So now I could just study my craft. I read every book. I was staying up at night. I was strategizing, re-strategizing, learning, and really just figuring out, what does tech look like? What does the beverage industry look like? What does the food industry look like? And finding and testing. And what I love for me is, and this is a piece of advice that I would give, is everyone is so loud with what they're working on. There is beauty in working in silence. Because you get to fail in 100%. Silence. You get to fail and test and try again until you find what works. Then you pop out and show. Like,
right.
Then that's when you show people.
That's right.
But I loved that for about 2 years, I got to operate and fail quietly and not publicly, which is a whole different story. But, that's how I preferred it. Mm-hmm. And then for 2.5 years, I built quietly the business side of Sara Lovestyle. I built my portfolio, went into VC, and then it was announced that I went into Broad Street. And for my vision, I didn't think, in full transparency, I didn't think that I was the most qualified person to have this conversation.
What, in VC, in venture capitalism?
To have VC, finance,
just
investing.
Because you were fairly new in the space, or?
I don't have a financial degree.
Okay.
I don't come from VC. I am just this influencer. What could I possibly share? Why would there be space for me? Or why would I be able to share it? And now there are more financial gurus and there's more people talking about it. But at the time, I'm like, I went from a stay-at-home mom to building a massive business while I continue to build this enterprise. But am I the most qualified person to have this discussion? And in 2023, I finally realized, no, I am, and that I had a responsibility, because influence without impact is a waste.
Right.
I don't want to just be pretty.
Yeah.
I don't want to just share funny, relatable videos.
Yeah.
I had a responsibility to share my knowledge and to share what I had learned in the last 5 years. And so I launched Influence to Equity, because what we don't think about, and I wish I would have thought about this sooner.
Wait, tell ITE, talk about your launch. Oh, yes.
So Influence to Equity is my podcast where I teach creators how to become entrepreneurs and help entrepreneurs become creators. Because if you think you work in corporate and you don't need a personal brand, you got the game completely messed up.
Yes, 100%.
If you work at church, you have influence.
Yeah.
You have a brand, whether you like it or not. If you are a pastor, you have a brand. If you are in the NFL, you have a brand, whether you like it or not. The question is, who tells that story?
That's good.
If you are a wife, and this is something that I wish I would have done sooner, what an optimal opportunity to build a brand with the current influence that you have, whether that's an impact and foundational work, whether it's creating a business and becoming an entrepreneur and it's your side hustle, whether it's creating content about your life. There are incredible opportunities to and do it on your own terms. You don't have to share your football life. You don't have to share your children. But find something or a subject that you are passionate about or feel motivated about or feels purposeful to you.
Purpose is everything.
Talk about that.
Yes.
Because you can make money through everything. I'm just saying. And I also believe in financial freedom. So find that place where you can, make money and monetize off of the things that you're already doing anyway. And for what I realized with creators is that everyone wants to monetize, but you got to operate like a business. Like, you just can't be out here taking money and not be an LLC.
That's good.
And then if you're an entrepreneur and you want to scale your business, people have to understand your brand. Who are you serving? What problem are you solving?
Yeah.
And we all are.
And it's funny that you say that, because I think, to your point, entrepreneurs, they think about the business. But they don't think about the brand. They're like, but I have the business. I'm like, yeah, but all encompassing. Who are you to this business, right? People want to understand. They want to make it make sense.
Yeah. And the thing is, everyone's being sold something all the time.
Of course.
Everyone is tired of being sold.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a brand and people can't understand who you are, what's your reputation, what's the brand reputation, and then also have a marketing plan. And so how are you going to sell it? And if you don't have a sales team or someone who understands sales, it doesn't matter how great your product is if you can't market it to anybody.
That's good. Okay, so we're going to pause there really quick. And I want you to think about this question.
Okay.
For let's just start with entrepreneurs, right? There's someone that has a business that they want to succeed in.
Mm-hmm.
What would be 3 pieces of advice you would give them?
The first is, why are you launching this particular business?
Okay.
And if I could be quite honest, if you come to me, if you are my client, so this is my real honest truth, and you were like, I'm passionate about, are you though? Why? Why? Because passions change.
That's true.
Like one day I like planting and the next day turns out I don't actually like plants and that I kill them all. You know what I mean? I don't have a green thumb.
I wasn't fruitful in that planting.
Or
that would be me.
Me neither. I don't have a green thumb. I learned that the hard way when everybody was like building plants and I killed all of them. I was like, be a fence, Lord. Like for me, I started as a beauty influencer. Turns out I'm passionate about beauty, but I'm not passionate about the business of beauty. So I needed to know why. So I would start with, why are you starting this particular business? And the reason why the why is important is because what problem are you solving? Who are you solving it for? Typically, we are solving our own issues and then we can turn that into a business. But if you're like, oh, I want to start, I don't know, a blush line, but you don't know, do you have rosacea?
Yeah.
Are you wanting women to feel more confident and empowered about themselves because that's an issue that you have? Is it a friend? Like, find out who you're solving it for and why you're solving it. The second thing I would do is have a business plan, but don't be so concrete in the business plan that you don't learn how to pivot when you need to. Because your business plan will also, I can honestly say 80% of the businesses that come to me don't have a business plan. People are
really?
No, they're winging it. No, they're winging it. Have a business plan. And part of that business plan, why it's important, is because you need to know how much capital you need.
Yeah.
Because you will burn through money not paying attention. So when those dark days get hard, you need to know why you're doing it, who you're solving it for, why those people are important to you, and then have the plan that you can consistently go back to keep you focused. And the third thing is, besides, like, obviously from a business standpoint, you're going to do your market research. That'll be in your business plan. And the third thing is, find other people that are in your industry and find out how you can do it better. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
So good. That's so important, right? Because I think that we're taught to not do that, or figure it out yourself, or don't tell them because they might, you know. But yes, like if we all just learn to just step out and talk and, you know, to people that have experienced.
Yeah. Go find a mentor. That would be like my 3A.
3A. I love that.
Go get a mentor, find a mentor, pay for a mentor, find someone who's also in that particular space or understands entrepreneurship, who can kind of guide you along. I've been able to fast track my career because I've had mentors through every stage of my career who've been able to push me, or coaches who've been able to accelerate my success and my growth, because I'm not starting from square one. Like Atoya knows steps 1 through 3. Okay, I'm willing to pay you for your time, or you say you're willing to help me for your time. Then I can get from 1 to 3, let's say in 6 to 8 months, rather than it taking me 3 years to learn that. Then I go to the next person who will teach me how to fast track it.
That's good.
And then remember why you're doing it, because, baby, when those dark days come, and you'll have a lot of them, you need to know what's happening.
That's good.
And don't be so stuck on the idea. I have so many. Don't be stuck on the idea.
That's actually a really good one.
Whatever you think your product is today may not be what it is 6 months from now.
That's true. Evolution is just evolution. Happens all the time.
Yeah. There's a company in my portfolio right now, and they started off in one particular space, and they're in AI. And who they're solving has changed 4 times just since I've invested. And I love it.
And they're not afraid to pivot.
No.
I love that.
And they'll probably get to $1 billion faster by solving this particular problem rather than that problem.
That's good. So when you look back over the evolution of Sara, from where you started to the NFL life, to now pivoting out of the NFL life after football, what would be the word that you would use to describe you?
Resilient. And the word isn't even just for football. It's from being born in a refugee camp. By the way, if you haven't listened to the first episode, go back and listen to the last episode. I was born in a refugee camp. I had a heart attack at 23. I have a child with severe special needs. It's not just autism. It is, he's going to need full care for the rest of his life. And so I am a full-time caregiver, and then also building my company, working in 7 different industries. It's so weird because I don't know if it's from I'll have to talk to my therapist about this later today. I don't know if it's from like a protection standpoint, but it's weird because I remember it, but it's such I waffled that experience from the league, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for the friends that I've made. I'm grateful for the experiences that I had. And then also coming out on the other side and being divorced, being a single mom, everything that should be wrong with me by society standards are the parts of me that are the greatest. No one can tell my story like I can.
That's good.
And the parts of me that sucked and are awful and ugly, I'm glad they happened. They had to happen. I could say, I wish this didn't happen to me. Again, this is just my experience. Do I wish I never experienced what I did? Absolutely. But also, I don't know if I would have gotten here the way that I did. I don't know if I'd be the woman that I am today if it hadn't have happened. I don't know if I'd have the people in my life right now that are here if it wouldn't have happened. I don't know if I would have gotten to see the evolution of my parents or my children seeing like such a new, renewed version of their mother at her best. So I would say resilience above all else. And it's so crazy to look back. I'm really proud of who I've become in the last 3 years since the last episode. Because I was breaking and broken during that interview. And no one knew.
Mm-mm. What would you say to little Sara?
Oh.
When you think about your life now, and then you think about little Sara and what she thought was life?
It's funny because you and I were talking before we cut the cameras on. My youngest is now in 7th grade. And I remember 7th grade so vividly. I knew at 13 that I wanted to be a reporter. I knew that I wanted to work on air. I knew that I wanted to work in television. But I had never seen anyone that looked like me in entertainment at the time. And a part of me thought that dream had died while building his. But I'm living it. Like, your dreams didn't die. They were delayed. And I have no regrets. I lived that particular part of my life the way that, on my terms, the way that I wouldn't change it at all. I would have done it the exact same way every single time. But like, my dreams didn't die. Everything that we wanted as a kid, that younger Sara wants, like, she's living. Everything that I aspired, I'm living. And if I could go back and tell little Sara, I would say, we didn't even dream big enough.
Dream bigger.
Bigger. It wasn't scary enough. I thought it would be.
It wasn't scary enough.
It wasn't scary enough. Bigger. So much bigger.
So if it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough.
And even then, add tax to it.
That's good. Yeah. That's really good.
I would say bigger. So much bigger.
If there's someone listening that wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
I make it easy. Sara Lovestyle across all platforms. My email address is saralovestyle@gmail.com. And don't be hitting me up with no crazy foolishness, but
she is fine and single. But we have to vet those.
Girls, go to Atoya for that one. Don't call me. Try Jesus. Try Atoya. Don't try me.
Yeah, y'all hit me up before you get to my girl.
Right.
Because She is an amazing human being.
Thank you.
It's been so fun watching you. It's been so inspiring, hilarious. But you have just really invented who you are throughout these years. And so many women are scared to do that. They're very afraid.
Reinvent, baby. Reinvent.
And the way you've done it with grace, with all of the things going on in your life, you should be so freaking proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Like, we need to like have a clink here. Like,
clink. Producer, where's the drink?
Pop the bottles. No, but you really have. It's been really inspirational. And the reason I started this podcast was because of women like you. You know, women that have platforms and they have all of these amazing ideas and jobs and they're doing so many cool things, but not enough people know. Mm. And once we start learning to build one another up and celebrate each other, then it's a trickle effect. We help the next person, which helps the next person. And that's exactly what you're doing. That's exactly why you are where you are. So be proud.
That is my hope. It is, it's a great life. Mm-hmm. It can be a difficult, challenging one. Yeah. But I have been afforded some great opportunities. But if I had one, like, not regret, but one thing I wish I would have done differently is I wish I would have built a better community, like, around me. And so you are building that now, where women get to have that community where they're not alone, where you have the resources that we need. And so on as much as I joke around about my email or contacting me, like, I'm so serious. Like, DM me, call me, don't call me, DM me, email me, but about, like, resources. I've lived in a lot of cities, so and I've made a lot of mistakes and I've dealt with a lot of challenges, especially with my son with special needs. And so I don't gatekeep any information. So if anybody needs any information, please, please, please let me know.
Awesome. Okay. We have one more thing that we always do. Okay. The 2-minute drill. You ready? Do you remember the 2-minute drill?
I do not, but let's go.
You don't? Okay,
oh, no, let's pray.
I'm going to ask you different questions this time.
Okay.
But they're fun. They're fun questions. Some are football related, some are not.
Okay.
Let me put the 2-minute timer on.
Oh, shoot. No pressure.
Start. Okay. Name your favorite place you've ever traveled to.
Maui.
Mm-mm. Name your favorite sports team.
Seahawks.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Who was the runner-up in the last Super Bowl?
Oh, no, because KC won. The 49ers.
You got it.
Good Lord.
Tell me someone you admire.
My mom.
Here's a tough one for you. Okay. Social media or tech?
Social media.
Okay.
Dang.
What are you most proud of?
My children, being a mom.
That's good. Tell me your favorite interview.
Ooh. You know what? It's actually an episode that's coming out whenever this releases. But now, Miss T is Tamara Sandoval. She's based out of San Francisco. Highly recommend. Go look up Miss T. She's probably my favorite interview to this point.
Love that. Love that. Tell me your favorite thing about your career.
Freedom.
Freedom. We have to talk about that. Okay. Where was I at? I just lost track of time. Oh, if there's someone that you want to meet in the world, who would it be?
Michelle Obama.
I know, me too. Did you see the speech? Okay, we have to talk about that. Okay. Here we go. Last question. What is next for you?
Scaling my business and eventually starting my own venture capital.
Okay, she literally has 10 seconds left. This is crazy. This never happens. You are on it. It usually takes people so many seconds to answer. Okay, last but not least, let me think. Nope, just kidding. The timer just went off.
Oh.
It just went off. I was like, that's really good. Sara, you are amazing. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing a different side of you that I know it's not easy, but I appreciate the vulnerability. And thank you for showing so many other women that in life, things may change, but it's resilience and it's your willingness to pivot that matters. Yeah. And most importantly, talking to someone, getting the help and therapy you need to be your best self. So I appreciate you and love you and thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm finally glad we got to do this in person.
I know. Long overdue.
Yes.
Long overdue. Thank you. All right. Well, that's our show. For the latest on the Inside Lines podcast, make sure to follow on both Instagram and Facebook. You can also check out the website, insidelinespodcast.com, and listen to your favorite episode. Lastly, check out the YouTube page, Inside Lines Podcast, and make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that you know when a new episode comes out. And please, leave an amazing 5-star review online and let us know who you'd like to hear on Inside Lines Podcast. Until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening.